Seth Curry. It seems like the Lakers would prefer to get Seth Curry back. He's on an expiring contract. Joe Harris, who's coming off ankle surgery, has 2 years left on his deal. So that is the dance. And you see some of the options there. In addition to Russell Westbrook, the Nets could receive Talen Horton-Tucker or Kendrick Nunn. That works, as well as draft picks, swaps, things like that. So these teams will go back and forth. GA, we were talking about this before the show. It seems like outside of the Lakers and Nets, there's probably a limited market for Westbrook and Kyrie, so I'll be interested to see if these two teams are able to work out a deal.
Yeah.
So, GA, in kind of what he's saying there, it seems like if a deal is done, it's going to be between these two teams. So who is getting the better end of the deal as it's presented?
Well, I think the Lakers have to feel good about getting Kyrie, and it's not necessarily just because of the talent, but fit-wise, because Kyrie's ability to shoot the basketball. That's the one area of concern, the big area of concern from an offensive standpoint for the Lakers from last season. They just didn't have a team that shot the ball well, and he gives you not only the shot making, but he's a guy that can space the floor, he can spread the floor. So I think that helps. And then if you do end up with Joe Harris, again, another guy that can shoot. So I think that's good for them. But I think Russell Westbrook's going to have a bounce-back year. I think he's going to have a solid year. But it also, if you're looking at it from Brooklyn's standpoint, you're going to come off his salary. You know, they're gonna be able to relieve themselves of that $48 million number. And for a team that, in essence, maybe they don't want to go into complete rebuild mode, but they do want to have some flexibility moving forward. And he probably gives them that. And there's always the possibility that he could re-sign there. Now, they're going to have issues, as Ryan was talking about before we came on the air. Now they go to being a team that doesn't have anybody that can shoot, because they're going to have Westbrook and Ben Simmons on the floor at the same time. Those are your two primary ball handlers. And in today's game, it is really hard to be competitive when your two primary ball handlers can't shoot the basketball or aren't consistent from that area. So there's still going to be some concerns no matter how you slice this from Brooklyn's perspective. But Brooklyn's the one that has more issues right now, because they not only got to figure this out, but obviously that 800-pound gorilla in the room with Kevin Durant.
I mean, how do you feel about this? Because, again, you go from now Kyrie and KD to Kyrie back with LeBron James. They have their own personal history. And then you look at this roster, as Mark had mentioned, it is flawed. You got Russell Westbrook. There's a lot to figure out, even though Kyrie is a phenomenal basketball player, and you could just kind of throw him in.
Listen, he's an incredible player, plus he can shoot, which would, quell some of the issues that the Lakers had last season. There is a history of his ability to play with LeBron. But absent Anthony Davis, I don't think it makes them contenders. I think if Anthony Davis is on that roster, they have the chance, because even though they've made some minor signings here early on, they're addressing areas of need. And Ryan, you know this, like the regular season, you got to get through it. So you need bodies, and you need people that can come out and help you win games over the course of the regular season. And that's what they didn't have a year ago. I think that's something else that they have to address. But listen, I think it makes sense if you're the Lakers to try and pull the trigger on that deal. And if you're boss Brooklyn, depending on what happens with KD, it might make sense to take a chance with a guy like Westbrook.
I think it's certainly something I do in the Lakers front office, bringing in Kyrie Irving for Russell Westbrook for all the reasons you mentioned. The shooting, he's younger than Westbrook. I don't see why it makes sense for Brooklyn. So I think the Lakers would have to try to incentivize. And keep in mind, guys, they still owe a first-round pick and a first-round pick swap to the Pelicans due to Lakers from the Anthony Davis deal. So that's the challenge. Another factor that works against the Lakers is Westbrook makes about $10 million more a year than Kyrie Irving does. Brooklyn's a tax team. So I understand that Kyrie wants to be in L.A., and I understand why the Lakers would want him, but I think they may need to get another team involved where Westbrook goes somewhere else if Kyrie's going to come in. Because keep in mind, just earlier this week, Kyrie was given permission by the Nets to survey the market and see if there's a sign and trade. He didn't really like what he heard. So I think the market is not what people externally outside of the league, Greg, may think it is for Westbrook and Kyrie. Given Westbrook's contract, given Kyrie's issues, there may be a limited market. So I think the trade could be more challenging than some people anticipate.
Well, to incentivize Brooklyn and to get Westbrook out, do you think the Lakers, who don't want to give up some of those draft picks, would do that in order to get Westbrook out?
I think they should. Honestly, I think they should. Kyrie's younger than Westbrook. He shoots the ball better. But if I'm Brooklyn, again, I don't love the fit at all.